Hyun-woo Kang's phone didn't ring in the middle of a meeting. It vibrated, 3 short pulses, like someone was tapping on a glass coffin. He glanced down. No caller ID, just a blank screen and a number that didn't exist in any of his networks. His second-in-command kept talking, charts on the wall, money and territory and schedules, until Hyun-woo raised one finger and the entire room went silent. He answered on the first breath. "Mr. Kang," a woman said, professional and calm, the kind of calm that only comes from people who deal with life and death for a living. "This is Dr. Seo from Seoul Medical Center, neonatal ICU. I'm calling with a legal liaison on the line." Hyun-woo didn't move. His men watched him like statues. The voice continued. "We have a patient under protected status. Her identity has been confirmed." Hyun-woo's jaw tightened. "Say the name." A short pause, paper shuffling. "Hana Choi Kang." The air disappeared from the room. Then the bomb dropped. Softly, brutally. "She delivered triplets today. You are listed as the father, and we require your signature within 24 hours for emergency consent." Hyun-woo's mind did the math so fast it hurt. 9 months. Exactly 9 months since Hana was taken. That meant only 2 possibilities, both lethal. Either she was already pregnant when she vanished, or someone controlled her life for 9 months and still let her carry his children. And if Hana was alive this whole time, who kept her hidden and why bring her back now? Before we dive into what Hyun-woo does next, subscribe to Aurora Love's Saga, because this story doesn't just get complicated, it gets dangerous in ways nobody sees coming. Now tell me this, if your missing wife suddenly gave birth to your triplets, would you run to her, or would you fear what the truth might cost you? Hyun-woo ended the call without saying goodbye. That alone made his men shift in their seats. He stood slowly, suit perfect, expression flat, and every person in the room understood something important. Money was no longer the priority. Minji, his executive assistant, was already at the door. She had learned years ago to read his silence. "Cancel everything," Hyun-woo said. "No meetings, no flights, no negotiations, not today." His second-in-command, Jun-sik, hesitated. "Boss, this port contract..." Hyun-woo's eyes moved toward him, and the hesitation died on Jun-sik's tongue. "Not today," Hyun-woo repeated. "If the world collapses, it collapses after I find my wife." He didn't say missing wife. He didn't say dead wife. He didn't even say her name again, because names were power, and this name had already cracked him open once. Minji stepped closer. "Sir? Is it confirmed?" Hyun-woo looked at the blank wall as if he could see 9 months through it. "The NICU doesn't play games." He turned toward the conference table. "I want hospital protocols, names, departments, security levels, every person assigned to her case." Jun-sik leaned forward. "We can send a team." "No." Hyun-woo's voice cut clean. "No entourage, no shadows. If she's under protection, they'll treat us like a threat. I go alone." The room froze. Hyun-woo Kang never went alone. Not because he was afraid, because the world was. But he was learning something new. Fear had different faces. Minji swallowed. "What about the syndicate operations?" Hyun-woo's gaze sharpened. "Put everything in maintenance mode. Anyone who stirs trouble today, remove them from my life." Minji nodded once. "Yes, sir." Hyun-woo picked up his coat, and as he walked out, he didn't look like a king leaving his throne. He looked like a man walking toward a door he wasn't sure he deserved to open, because the call wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the question burning in his chest. If Hana survived, why didn't she come home? And that's when Hyun-woo realized someone else had been writing his story for 9 months. Seoul Medical Center didn't care who Hyun-woo Kang was. Hospitals bowed to no one. Not money, not power, not fear. At the entrance, security scanned him like a threat even in a tailored suit. A government liaison met him in a private hallway, woman in her 40s, stiff posture, eyes trained to remain neutral. "Mr. Kang," she said, not bowing. "I'm Officer Yoon, Child Protection and Witness Security." Hyun Woo's mouth tightened at the word witness. Witness meant someone had seen something. Witness meant Hana's kidnapping had never been random. "Where is she?" Hyun Woo asked. Officer Yoon held a tablet. "Before that, we must confirm identity and establish your legal status. You will sign emergency consent for the infant's medical decisions. Limited scope." "Limited?" Hyun Woo's voice was calm, but the hallway seemed colder. Officer Yoon's eyes didn't blink. "You are not granted unrestricted access. This case has legal restrictions." Hyun Woo stared at her, then at the tablet, and signed. A signature wasn't a surrender. It was a doorway. Dr. Seo appeared next, young, tired eyes, the look of someone who hadn't slept. "Mr. Kang, thank you for coming quickly." "Where are they?" Hyun Woo asked. Dr. Seo hesitated. "Before you see them, I need you to understand. These infants were born early. One is medically fragile. They are in NICU, strict protocol." Hyun Woo nodded once. Protocol was something he respected. Dr. Seo led him past glass walls and quiet alarms. The NICU was a strange world, machines breathing for tiny lives, nurses moving like careful ghosts, and there, 3 incubators, lined like fragile secrets, Min Jae, Seo Yeon, June. Hyun Woo's knees did not buckle. He didn't cry, he didn't make a sound, but something inside him shifted, like a fortress door cracking open for the first time. A nurse adjusted the smallest baby's blanket. Hyun Woo stepped closer, hands hovering, unsure where to put them. The smallest infant, fragile, pale, moved a tiny hand and curled 2 fingers around Hyun Woo's gloved pinky. The grip was weak, but it was real. Hyun Woo held his breath as if breathing too hard would break the moment. Dr. Seo spoke softly. "They respond to warmth, to voice. It helps." Hyun Woo stared at the infants and whispered, barely audible, "I'm here." The nurse looked surprised, because men like Hyun Woo Kang didn't say those words, not unless they meant them. And as the machines hummed, Hyun Woo felt a terrifying thought settle in his bones. He had built an empire to control the world, but these 3 tiny lives would control him with a single finger. And the question was, who else wanted control over them? Hyun Woo expected to see Hana immediately. He expected, because he always expected. But Officer Yoon stopped him in the corridor. "Hana Choi Kang is under protective custody," she said. "She is not available for direct contact today." Hyun Woo's eyes hardened. "I'm her husband." Officer Yoon's voice remained neutral. "She is also a protected witness. She has requested boundaries." Requested? The word hit Hyun Woo in a place he didn't like to admit existed. He took a slow breath. "What boundaries?" Dr. Seo exchanged a glance with Officer Yoon. Officer Yoon said, "Supervised NICU access only. No private meetings. Communication will be mediated." Hyun Woo's jaw flexed once. "Did she request that, or did you force it?" Officer Yoon didn't flinch. "Both can be true." Hyun Woo stared at the NICU doors. Beyond them were his children. Somewhere else behind other doors was his wife. Alive, but not reaching for him. "Tell her I'm here," Hyun Woo said. Officer Yoon nodded. "We will inform her." As Hyun Woo turned to leave, Dr. Seo spoke quietly. "Mr. Kang, trauma changes people. Sometimes survival looks like distance." Hyun Woo didn't answer. Distance was something he understood. He had used it like a weapon for years. Now it was being used against him. In the elevator, Hyun Woo's phone buzzed. Minji's message, "Media monitoring alert. Hospital rumor detected." He stared at the screen, pulse steady. Someone had already scented blood. And Hyun Woo knew how predators worked. They didn't attack the strongest part of you. They attacked the part you tried to hide. And that's when he understood. Hana being alive wasn't just a miracle. It was a target. Attorney Yoon-jin Park had handled Hyun Woo's legitimate contracts for years. She'd also handled the messes that didn't exist on paper. Her office smelled like ink and restraint. Hyunwoo sat across from her, hands folded, posture perfect. Yoonjin listened without interrupting as he laid out the facts. Kidnapping 9 months ago, no trace. Now NICU call, protective custody, triplets. When he finished, she tapped her pen once. "What do you want?" she asked. Hyunwoo answered instantly. "Access, protection, custody rights." Yoonjin nodded. "You can file for emergency custody, but with protective custody involved, courts will move carefully. They will ask, 'Are you a risk?'" Hyunwoo's eyes narrowed. "I'm the father." "Courts don't care about biology as much as you think," Yoonjin said calmly. "They care about safety, stability. Witness protection suggests Hana believes danger is near." Hyunwoo's voice lowered. "Danger is always near." Yoonjin held his gaze. "Exactly. So the question becomes, can you change the environment?" Change. Hyunwoo hated the word because it implied he wasn't perfect. Yoonjin continued. "If you go to war, threaten, pressure, force, the court will see a volatile man trying to take fragile infants. You will lose." Hyunwoo's fingers tightened. "And if I don't go to war?" Yoonjin leaned back. "Then you play the long game. You show up. You cooperate. You behave like a father, not a boss." Hyunwoo stared at the desk. 9 months ago, he would have laughed at the idea of showing up being power. Now he understood. In Hana's world, consistency was strength. Yoonjin slid a folder toward him. "I can request mediation. Official, non-combative. It establishes a phased plan. If Hana agrees, you get structured access without court war." Hyunwoo exhaled slowly. "Do it." Yoonjin's eyebrows lifted slightly. She hadn't expected that. Hyunwoo stood. At the door, he paused. "Yoonjin." "Yes?" Hyunwoo's voice dropped to something almost human. "If she thinks I'm a threat, how do I prove I'm not?" Yoonjin's answer was quiet. "By doing the one thing powerful men almost never do." Hyunwoo waited. Yoonjin said, "You listen." Hyunwoo walked out with a plan that felt like a cage. But cages, he realized, could also be shelters, if built for the right reason. And the first test would come sooner than he expected. 2 days later, a mediator called Hyunwoo into a secure hospital meeting room. Mr. Kim, older man with calm eyes, spoke gently. "Mr. Kang, Mrs. Kang has agreed to a brief, supervised conversation." Hyunwoo's chest tightened. The door opened. Hana stepped in. She was thinner. Her hair was pulled back tight, like she needed control over something. Her eyes, those eyes he had missed for 9 months, were sharp, not soft. She did not rush toward him. She did not cry. She looked at him the way you look at a storm, recognizing danger, refusing to run. Hyunwoo stood slowly. "Hana." Hana's lips pressed together. "Hyunwoo." The mediator sat between them like a thin wall. Hyunwoo tried to step around it with his voice. "Why didn't you—" Hana cut him off with one calm sentence. "I don't fear you," she said. "I fear your world." Hyunwoo's throat tightened. "My world searched for you." Hana's eyes didn't flinch. "Your world is why I disappeared." The room went still. Hyunwoo's hands clenched once, then loosened. Are the babies?" "They're alive," Hana said. "And they will stay alive. That's my only promise." Hyunwoo swallowed. "They're ours." Hana's gaze turned cold. "They are mine to protect." Hyunwoo leaned forward. "Let me protect them too." Hana tilted her head slightly. "Protection isn't what you did before." Hyunwoo froze. Hana continued, voice steady. "You called it protection. But what you really did was control everything around me until I couldn't breathe." Hyunwoo's jaw tightened. He wanted to deny it. He couldn't. The mediator cleared his throat. "Mrs. Kang has proposed a phased plan, beginning with supervised NICU visits. Strict schedule. No exceptions." Hyunwoo nodded once. "Fine." Hana's eyebrows lifted. She had expected resistance. Hyunwoo met her eyes. Tell me the schedule. Hana's voice softened, just a fraction. Every day at 7 p.m., 1 hour, alone. No men outside the unit, no security. Hyunwoo's instinct screamed. Alone was dangerous, but Hana's gaze said something else. If you bring your army, you prove my fear. Hyunwoo nodded. I'll be there. Hana stared at him, searching for lies. She didn't find one. As she stood to leave, she paused at the door. The smallest one is struggling, she said quietly without looking back. If you miss even one visit, don't come again. The door closed. Hyunwoo stood motionless. 1 hour daily, a schedule, a test, and he realized something terrifying. Hana had rebuilt her life around survival. Now she was asking him to rebuild his around love. And what happened next would prove whether Hyunwoo Kang was capable of something he'd never mastered, being present. Hyunwoo arrived at 6:55 p.m., not 7:05, not 7 o'clock, early, because Control loved precision, and Hana's rules were a new kind of battlefield. The NICU nurse checked his hands, his mask, his badge. No exceptions. Hyunwoo held Seo-yeon first, tiny, warm, light as breath. He didn't know how to cradle a newborn. The nurse corrected his grip, gentle but firm, and Hyunwoo let her. That alone would have shocked his men. On day 2, he held June, loud, stubborn, protesting the world with a tiny scream. Hyunwoo rocked him carefully, eyes narrowed like he was negotiating. On day 3, the smallest one, Min Jae, was too fragile to hold. Hyunwoo stood by the incubator and spoke quietly through glass. I'm here, he repeated. I'm here. Day 4, a foreign investor demanded a late call, multi-million-dollar negotiations. Hyunwoo looked at the clock. 6:50. He canceled the call. Minji nearly dropped her phone. Sir, that contract? Hyunwoo didn't look away from the time. Not today. Day 5, Hana didn't appear. Hyunwoo felt the absence like a knife. He turned to the nurse. Where is she? The nurse hesitated. She's resting. She's recovering. Hyunwoo nodded once. Recovering from birth, from trauma, from 9 months he couldn't imagine. On day 6, Hana appeared behind the glass partition, watching him hold Seo-yeon. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes tracked every movement. How he supported the head, how he adjusted the blanket, how he didn't act like he owned the room. When the hour ended, Hyunwoo placed Seo-yeon down and turned. Hana was gone. A punishment? A boundary? A fear? Hyunwoo walked out, hands empty, chest heavy, and outside, his phone buzzed. Minji, rumor. Kang has children. Source unknown. Hyunwoo stared at the message. Someone was watching. Someone was measuring his weakness. And in Hyunwoo's world, weakness didn't stay a rumor. It became a weapon. But that wasn't the real problem. The real problem was that for the first time in his life, Hyunwoo Kang didn't want to fight. He wanted to protect. Hyunwoo's mother invited him to dinner. Invited wasn't the right word. Summoned. The Kang family home sat in a quiet, wealthy district. Traditional gate, clean stone steps, air that smelled like old money. Hyunwoo entered with controlled posture, shoes removed, a small bow. His mother, Madam Kang, sat at the table like a judge. She didn't ask how he was. She didn't ask about Hana. She asked the question that mattered to her. Is it true, she said, that there are children? Hyunwoo didn't lie. Triplets. Silence. His older uncle inhaled sharply. Madam Kang's eyes narrowed. With Hana. Yes. Madam Kang's voice turned sharp. And you kept this from us? I didn't know, Hyunwoo said, until now. Madam Kang tapped her chopsticks once. A Kang heir is not hidden. A Kang heir is raised properly. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened. They are in NICU. Madam Kang dismissed the detail like it was inconvenient. When they leave the hospital, they come here. Hyunwoo's eyes hardened. No. The room froze. Even as a grown man, even as a feared boss, Hyunwoo rarely said no to his mother. Madam Kang's expression sharpened. Excuse me. Hyunwoo's voice stayed calm. They will not be displayed like trophies. Hana will not be pressured. The babies will be protected. Madam Kang leaned forward. Protected how? By your empire? By the very danger that stole Hana? Hyunwoo's fingers tightened around his glass. The truth was painful. Madam Kang wasn't wrong, but she wasn't right either. I'm changing how I operate, Hyunwoo said. His uncle laughed quietly. A tiger doesn't become a rabbit. Hyunwoo stood. Then watch what happens when a tiger decides his cubs matter more than his claws. Madam Kang's face tightened. Do not embarrass this family. Hyunwoo bowed, respectful, controlled. Then he delivered the line that startled them all. My family is at the hospital. He walked out. Outside, cold air hit his lungs, and he realized something. This fight wasn't only against rivals. It was against tradition, against expectations, against the version of himself everyone thought was permanent. And the next step, phase 2, would demand more than consistency. It would demand sacrifice, because someone was about to test him in the language he understood best, leverage. Park Jae-sung didn't call. He sent an invitation. A black envelope delivered to Hyunwoo's office with no fingerprints, no scent, no trace. Inside was a single card. Congratulations on your beautiful triplets. Let's discuss your future. Hyunwoo stared at the words. How did Park know? Only a few people knew. The hospital, the liaison, Minji, his men, Hana. Which meant the leak wasn't random. It was controlled. Hyunwoo called Minji. Lock down all communications. Minji's voice was tight. Sir, it's already moving in certain circles. Not public yet, but whispers. Whispers were worse than headlines. Whispers invited predators. Hyunwoo drove to the location on the card, an upscale tea house, clean, quiet, the kind of place where violence felt impossible. Park Jae-sung sat alone, smiling like a businessman. He stood and bowed slightly. Hyunwoo, I'm sorry about your family troubles. Hyunwoo didn't sit. You leaked hospital information. Park spread his hands. I didn't leak anything. I merely heard. Hyunwoo's voice turned cold. What do you want? Park's smile widened. Now? Nothing urgent. Just a conversation. Hyunwoo's eyes narrowed. Say it. Park leaned forward, voice soft. Your wife is back. Your children exist. That changes the board. Hyunwoo's fists tightened once. Park continued. I can help you keep them safe, keep rumors contained, keep certain eyes away. And the price? Hyunwoo asked. Park's eyes glittered. Your port routes, 2 of them, for 6 months. Hyunwoo stared at him. 2 routes meant millions. It also meant control. Park smiled. Think of it as insurance. Hyunwoo's voice dropped. Insurance is something you buy from fear. Park's smile didn't move. And fear is something you live with now. Hyunwoo stepped closer until Park's smile faltered just slightly. I will not trade my family for silence, Hyunwoo said. Park exhaled, still composed. Then you will learn what noise costs. Hyunwoo turned and walked out. He didn't threaten Park. He didn't raise his voice. Because he'd learned something in NICU. Loudness didn't equal strength. And the real war was fought quietly. But what Hyunwoo didn't know was that Park had already planned the next move. And it would hit where rules couldn't protect him. A week later, mediation was approved. Officer Yoon arranged a secure residence for Hana. Protected facility disguised as an ordinary apartment building. Hyunwoo arrived at exactly 5 p.m., alone. No driver, no escort. He carried nothing but a small bag, diapers, wipes, a soft blanket, items the NICU nurse had told him were safe. A security guard led him upstairs. The door opened. Hana stood there holding Seo-yeon, tired but steady. Hyunwoo froze. This was the first time he saw her holding one of their children. It felt like seeing a life he should have lived, without the shadows. Hana didn't invite him in immediately. She looked him over like a search. No watch, she said. Hyunwoo's fingers moved to his wrist instinctively. Then he realized. He removed the watch and placed it on a small table near the door. Hana nodded once. No phone. Hyunwoo's eyes narrowed. That's unreasonable. Hana's voice stayed calm. It's a boundary. You can either agree or leave. Hyunwoo swallowed his pride and handed his phone to the guard outside. The door closed. Silence. 3 bassinets in the living room. Min-jae slept under a monitor. June stirred, tiny fists waving like he was fighting in dreams. Hana's eyes flicked to Hyunwoo. 1 hour. Today is about them, not us. Hyunwoo nodded. Hana handed Seo-yeon to him. Hyunwoo held his daughter awkwardly, then adjusted his grip like the nurse taught him. Seo-yeon blinked up at him. No recognition, just existence. And somehow that was worse than hatred. Hana sat across from him, watching every breath. Hyunwoo tried to speak carefully. Tell me what happened. Hana's jaw tightened. Not yet. Hyunwoo's eyes sharpened. Who took you? Hana's gaze turned colder. Not yet. Hyunwoo leaned forward. Hana's voice cut clean. If you make this about your need to control the truth, you will lose access. Hyunwoo stopped. He inhaled slowly. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He nodded. Hana watched him, surprised. The hour passed with quiet tasks. Hyunwoo rocking Seo-yeon, Hana feeding June with practiced hands, Min-jae's monitor ticking like a warning. When Hyunwoo stood to leave, Hana spoke without looking up. You showed up, she said. That matters. It was small, but in Hyunwoo's world, small things could start wars, or end them. And that's when the next phase unlocked. But the price of unlocking it would be high, because Park Jae-sung was about to make Hyunwoo choose between empire and family, publicly. Hyunwoo was leaving the protected building when Minji called. Her voice was tight. Sir, we have a situation. She sent him a photo. It was grainy, taken from a distance. Hyunwoo standing outside a building carrying a diaper bag. That alone would be suspicious. But the caption someone added beneath it, circulating in private circles, was worse. Kang's wife is alive. Triplets confirmed. Hyunwoo's chest went cold. He called Minji. Contain it. Minji swallowed. Sir, it's not public yet, but rivals have it, Park's people included. Hyunwoo stared at the photo. A diaper bag. That was his weakness now. Not guns, not money. A bag of baby supplies. He entered his car and sat still, breathing slowly. If he denied it, he looked weak and dishonest. If he confirmed it, he painted a target on Hana and the babies. If he stayed silent, predators would keep circling. Hyunwoo dialed Officer Yoon. We have a leak, he said. Officer Yoon didn't sound surprised. We expected this. Hyunwoo's voice lowered. Did you? Officer Yoon hesitated. There are reasons Mrs. Kang is protected. She has information. Powerful people want her quiet. Hyunwoo's fingers tightened. Then tell me who. Officer Yoon's answer was cold. You will learn when she is ready to tell you. Until then, your job is simple. Hyunwoo's jaw flexed. What job? Officer Yoon said, show up. Don't escalate. Don't scare her. Don't prove her right. Hyunwoo ended the call. He stared out at Seoul's skyline, lights like 1,000 eyes. And in that moment, Hyunwoo realized the cruelest truth. Hana's rules weren't punishment. They were protection. From him, from his world, from the fact that love in his life had always been dangerous. And what happened next would force him to choose his identity. Boss or father. 2 weeks later, Min-jae's condition worsened. Hyunwoo arrived for his scheduled visit at Hana's residence and found her standing at the window, face tight, eyes raw. He didn't ask permission this time. He spoke softly. Min-jae. Hana didn't look at him. He had an episode. They stabilized him. Hyunwoo exhaled slowly. Why didn't you tell me? Hana finally turned. Because every time you learn something, your instinct is war. Hyunwoo swallowed. My instinct is protection. Hana's eyes flashed. Your instinct is control. Silence. Hyunwoo stepped closer, slow. Then tell me what you're afraid of. Tell me who you're hiding from. Hana stared at him for a long time. Then she made a decision. It wasn't only Park, she said quietly. Hyunwoo froze. What? Hana's voice shook slightly, but her spine stayed straight. My kidnapping wasn't random. It wasn't just a rival grabbing leverage. Hyunwoo's heart thudded once. Hana whispered the truth like a knife sliding in. Someone inside your circle helped them. Hyunwoo's vision narrowed. Inside. That meant someone he fed. Someone he trusted. Someone who had stood in his office for years. Hyunwoo's voice was dangerously calm. Name. Hana shook her head once. Not yet. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened. Hana cut him off. If you go hunting, you will scare them. And if you scare them, they will come for the babies. Hyunwoo's fists clenched. Hana stepped closer, eyes burning. This is what you don't understand. You think strength is making people afraid. But right now, strength is keeping your hands steady. Hyunwoo stared at her, chest tight. Hana took a slow breath. I will tell you when I know the babies are safe enough, when I know you won't burn the world down and leave us in the ashes. Hyunwoo's voice cracked, just slightly. I thought you were gone. Hana's expression softened. Barely. I tried to come home in my mind every day, but home wasn't safe anymore. Hyunwoo looked away, jaw tight. He wanted to break something. Instead, he lowered his voice. Then teach me how to make it safe. Hana's eyes widened, surprised by the word teach, because Hyunwoo Kang never asked to be taught. Hana whispered, start by proving you can hold a fragile life without crushing it. Hyunwoo nodded once, and in that moment the war changed. It wasn't about territory anymore. It was about trust. And now the real problem began, because Hyunwoo had to investigate betrayal without becoming the monster Hana feared. Hyunwoo didn't call his men and shout. He didn't storm into offices. He didn't threaten anyone. Instead, he did something smarter. He audited. He asked Yoon-jin to open legitimate reviews of finances connected to Park Jae-sung's known networks. He asked Minji for access logs, who had entered his office on the day Hana was taken. He asked Jun-sik to list every person who had gained territory after Hana disappeared. Hyunwoo watched patterns like a predator in silence, and a name kept appearing in small ways, too small to notice at first. Seo Dai-ho, his trusted operations head, his calm right-hand man, the one who had always advised restraint, the one who had handled the search routes. Hyunwoo's chest tightened. He didn't want it to be true. He wanted betrayal to come from outside, where it was easier to hate. But betrayal from inside was intimate, ugly. Hyunwoo met Dae-ho for tea. Dae-ho bowed respectfully. Boss, you've been distracted. Hyunwoo's eyes remained neutral. I have priorities. Dae-ho smiled faintly. Family is important. Hyunwoo studied him. Is that what you believe? Dae-ho's expression didn't change. Of course. Hyunwoo leaned forward slightly. Tell me what you know about the hospital leak. Dae-ho's eyes flickered. Just once. A tiny flicker. But Hyunwoo saw it. Dae-ho said calmly, rumors travel. We can contain it. Hyunwoo smiled slightly. Not warmth. Warning. Contain it, Hyunwoo repeated. Yes, Dae-ho nodded. I will handle it. Hyunwoo watched him leave, and Hyunwoo realized the most terrifying part. If Dae-ho was involved, this wasn't only Park. It was a network, and networks didn't collapse with one punch. They collapsed with precision. But what Hyunwoo didn't realize was that Park had already moved to phase 4 of his own plan, and Hana would be the one to pay first. Hana called 3 days later, not through the mediator, directly. Hyunwoo stared at the screen as if it were a miracle. He answered instantly, Hana. Her voice was calm, tired. Min-jae is stable enough to leave NICU soon. We need plans. Hyunwoo's chest tightened. Bring them to me. Silence. Then Hana said, Phase 3. Hyunwoo swallowed. What does that mean? It means you want access to their real life, Hana said. Then I need to see yours. Hyunwoo's mind moved fast. You want to inspect my home? Yes. Hana's voice remained steady. Safety, staff, entry points, cameras, neighbors, everything. Hyunwoo almost laughed, because it was exactly how he would inspect a threat. He respected it. When? Hyunwoo asked. Friday, Hana said. 1 hour, and Hyunwoo, yes? No lies. Her voice sharpened. No hidden rooms, no business behind locked doors. If you hide anything, I walk. Hyunwoo exhaled. You'll see everything. He hung up and turned to Minji. Child-proof the penthouse, Hyunwoo said. Minji blinked. Sir, your home has glass tables. Remove them. Sir, there are art pieces worth... Move them. Minji hesitated. Your men? No men inside, Hyunwoo said. Only vetted staff. Background checks. Minji nodded slowly. Understood. That week, Hyunwoo's penthouse transformed. Soft corner guards appeared on marble edges. Outlet covers snapped into place. Cabinet locks clicked. A nursery formed in a guest room that had never been used for anything but silence. Hyunwoo stared at the portable cribs and felt something strange. This wasn't decoration. This was intention. On Friday, Hana arrived with Officer Yoon and the mediator. She stepped into Hyunwoo's penthouse and paused, taking in the view, the quiet wealth, the cold elegance softened by baby-proofed corners. Hana walked room to room like a professional. She tested locks, checked windows, measured distances. Then she entered the nursery. 3 cribs, warm light, soft blankets. Hana's eyes softened for the first time, just slightly. You did this fast, she said. Hyunwoo's voice was low. I learned what mattered. Hana turned to him. Why are you doing this, Hyunwoo? You could have fought me legally. You could have forced your way in. Hyunwoo stared at her, and for a moment, the boss mask slipped. Because I already lost you once, he said quietly. I don't want to lose them, too. Hana's throat moved as if she swallowed something painful. Then she nodded once. A trial day, she said. Tomorrow, 8 hours. No entourage, no visitors. If anything feels unsafe, I end it. Hyunwoo's chest tightened. Phase 3 unlocked. But he knew the truth. Trials weren't about winning. They were about revealing who you really were. And tomorrow would reveal Hyunwoo Kang to himself. Hana arrived the next morning with the triplets bundled like precious cargo. Hyunwoo opened the door and froze. 3 carriers, 3 tiny faces, 3 lives. For a moment he forgot how to breathe. Hana's voice was sharp, practical. Minjae's monitor stays on, SEO Yan eats every 2 hours. June screams if you ignore him. Hyunwoo nodded as if receiving battle instructions. Hana set the bags down. Supplies are labeled. If you panic, call me. If you try to handle it alone out of pride, you'll fail. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened. Noted. Hana studied him. I'll return at 5. Then she left, and suddenly, Hyunwoo was alone in a penthouse with 3 newborns. The first hour was manageable. Hyunwoo held Seo Yan and walked slowly, humming a tune he didn't recognize he remembered from Hana's voice. June screamed anyway. Minjae's monitor beeped, and Hyunwoo's blood turned cold until he realized it was only an alert for repositioning. By hour 2, Hyunwoo had formula on his sleeve. By hour 3, he had changed 1 diaper successfully, 2 imperfectly. By hour 4, June finally stopped screaming, only because Hyunwoo pressed the baby to his chest and whispered, steady and low, I'm here. The words worked like magic. Hyunwoo stared at the baby in disbelief. Power didn't work like this. Threats didn't work like this. Only presence did. By hour 6, all 3 were asleep. Hyunwoo sat on the floor beside the cribs, suit jacket discarded, tie loosened, watching them breathe. His phone buzzed outside the nursery, Minji calling. Hyunwoo didn't answer immediately. For the first time, he didn't want the world. He wanted this quiet. He stepped out and answered. What? Minji's voice was tense. Sir, Park Jae-sung's people are spreading a different rumor now. Hyunwoo's eyes narrowed. What rumor? Minji exhaled. That Hana returned. Because she's cooperating with prosecutors. That you're compromised. They're pushing your partners to test you. Hyunwoo's blood went cold. Park was trying to isolate him, to force him into desperation, to make him choose empire or family. Hyunwoo looked back at the nursery door. Then he said quietly, "Let them test." Minji hesitated. "Sir," Hyunwoo's voice sharpened. "I said, let them test." He ended the call. At 5, Hana returned. She stepped into the nursery and found Hyunwoo sitting on the floor, hair slightly out of place, eyes tired, one hand resting near Min-jae's monitor like a guard. Hana stared at him. "Any incidents?" she asked. Hyunwoo's mouth twitched slightly. "We survived." Hana checked each baby carefully. Then she looked at Hyunwoo. "You didn't call," she said quietly. Hyunwoo's voice was low. "I didn't want to break the trial." Hana's eyes softened a fraction. "Good," she said, "because it means you didn't run." Hyunwoo nodded once. A mini payoff, a small trust upgrade. But outside, the world was moving, and Park Jae-sung wasn't finished, because now he knew Hyunwoo's weakness wasn't rumor. It was real, and he was going to reach for it. The next morning, headlines didn't appear, but private messages did. Hyunwoo's partners began checking in. A rival offered a new deal, too generous. A politician canceled a meeting. A logistics firm demanded assurances. Hyunwoo made a list. And as he made it, he realized something. Park wasn't trying to expose the babies to the public. Not yet. Park was trying to make Hyunwoo panic, to force him into a mistake. And now, let me ask you something. Because this is where most people would break. If you were Hyunwoo, would you publicly admit you have triplets and risk painting a target on them? Or would you keep them secret and risk letting enemies control the narrative? Drop your answer in the comments and keep watching, because Hyunwoo's next move is the one nobody expects. Because instead of reacting with violence, he reacts with strategy. And that's when Park realizes he's not fighting the old Hyunwoo anymore. Hana didn't soften overnight. She still watched him like a gate, but she began sending short messages. Min-jae needs quiet. June hates cold bottles. Warm them more. Seo-yeon likes humming. They weren't romantic messages. They were co-parenting. And in Hyunwoo's world, co-parenting felt like trust. One evening, after a supervised handoff, Hana stayed at the doorway longer than usual. Hyunwoo noticed. "What is it?" Hana hesitated. Then she said quietly, "Park's people approached me today." Hyunwoo's eyes went sharp. "Where?" "At the hospital," Hana said. "A nurse who wasn't a nurse." Hyunwoo's chest went cold. "Did they touch you?" "No," Hana said, "but they spoke." Hyunwoo's fists clenched. "What did they say?" Hana's voice tightened. "They said, if I keep you close, the babies will suffer for it. They said you can't protect anything without destroying it." Hyunwoo stared at her. That line wasn't only a threat. It was an accusation. Hana looked at him, eyes burning. "Can you?" Hyunwoo swallowed. His instinct was to promise. He didn't. Instead, he said something harder. "I used to think control was protection," Hyunwoo admitted quietly. "I used to think if I controlled every door, every person, every outcome, nothing could hurt you." Hana's throat moved, but she stayed silent. Hyunwoo continued. "But I didn't realize I was hurting you myself. I didn't protect you, Hana. I compressed your life until there was no air." Hana's eyes glistened, just slightly. Hyunwoo's voice dropped. "If you give me a chance, I won't ask to control you anymore. I will ask to earn you. Earn them." Hana stared at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Then she whispered, "Words are easy." Hyunwoo nodded. "Then judge me by my actions." Hana looked down at the diaper bag, then back up, and she said the smallest sentence that changed everything. "Okay, a trust upgrade, a mini payoff, but also a new vulnerability. Because once Hana began to trust him, hurting him would become easier, and Park Jae-sung loved easy targets, and the next move would come from inside Hyun-woo's own house. Seo Dae-ho arrived at Hyun-woo's office with a calm expression. "Boss," he said, "we should discuss the rumor situation." Hyun-woo watched him carefully. Dae-ho placed a folder down. "Some partners are nervous. They're asking if you're compromised." Hyun-woo leaned back. "And what do you advise?" Dae-ho's voice was smooth. "We should create distance, for now. Keep your family hidden. Reduce exposure." Hyun-woo's eyes narrowed slightly. "Distance." Dae-ho nodded. "It is safer." Hyun-woo's voice lowered. "Is it safer? Or is it convenient for someone?" Dae-ho froze. Just a fraction. Hyun-woo stood slowly. "Tell me, Dae-ho, where were you the night Hana was taken?" Dae-ho's eyes flickered. "Boss, why are you asking?" Hyun-woo's voice remained calm, deadly. "Answer." Dae-ho swallowed. "I was handling a shipment issue in Busan. You know that." Hyun-woo nodded slowly. "Yes, I know what you told me." Dae-ho's face tightened slightly. "Boss." Hyun-woo stepped closer. "I'm going to ask again. Where were you?" Silence. Dae-ho's jaw tightened. "Boss, you're stressed. You're emotional." Hyun-woo's eyes turned cold. "Don't call me emotional." Dae-ho exhaled. "I'm loyal." Hyun-woo stared at him. "Then prove it." Dae-ho hesitated 1 second too long. Hyun-woo turned to Minji. "Prepare internal audit. All operations, all access logs, all funds." Dae-ho's calm mask cracked. "Boss, this is unnecessary." Hyun-woo smiled slightly. "If you have nothing to hide, you won't fear the light." Dae-ho left, posture stiff. Hyun-woo watched him go, and he knew the enemy inside had finally felt threatened, which meant the enemy inside would strike, and the strike would aim for Hana, because she was the only person who could destroy them with the truth. Hana agreed to one meeting with Madame Kang, not because she wanted to, because Hyun-woo asked, with humility, not command. Madame Kang arrived at the penthouse with perfect posture, 2 assistants behind her. Hana stood in the living room holding Seo-yeon. Hyun-woo stood beside Hana, not in front of her. That detail mattered. Madame Kang's eyes immediately went to the babies, not to Hana. "Beautiful," Madame Kang said. "Kang blood is strong." Hana's jaw tightened. Hyun-woo spoke softly. "Aomoni, please." Madame Kang looked at him sharply. "Please? Since when do you say please?" Hyun-woo didn't flinch. "Since I learned respect isn't only fear." Madame Kang's lips pressed thin. Hana shifted Seo-yeon gently. "They are not trophies," she said calmly. "They are children." Madame Kang's eyes narrowed. "And you are the woman who disappeared for 9 months." Hyun-woo's posture tightened. Hana's voice remained steady. "I was taken." Madame Kang's gaze sharpened. In Hyun-woo's world, women know what they marry into. Hana's eyes flashed, but she controlled herself. Hyun-woo stepped forward. "Stop." Madame Kang froze. Hyun-woo's voice was firm, respectful, final. "You will not speak to her like that." Madame Kang stared at him in disbelief. Hana's gaze flicked toward Hyun-woo, surprised. Madame Kang's voice turned cold. "You choose her over your blood?" Hyun-woo answered quietly. "She is my blood now, and those children are not safe if you treat their mother like an enemy." Madame Kang stood, pride stiff as stone. "Then you have changed." Hyun-woo nodded. "Yes." Madame Kang looked at the triplets one last time. Then she did something rare. She bowed, small, stiff, toward Hana. Not kindness, but recognition. Hana's eyes widened slightly. Madame Kang left, and when the door closed, Hana whispered, "You didn't have to do that." Hyun-woo's voice was low. "I did." Hana stared at him. A mini payoff, a trust level up. But it also meant Hyun-woo had publicly shown a weakness, and Park Jae-sung was watching. Because the next day, Park played his most dangerous card. He went after Min-jae. Min-jae's monitor began beeping during a routine checkup. A nurse rushed in. Hyun-woo's instincts ignited, heart steady, mind sharp. But this wasn't a medical emergency. It was a tampering alert. Officer Yoon appeared, face tight. Someone accessed the monitoring device. Hana's face went pale. How? Officer Yoon's voice was cold. We had an imposter nurse attempt entry. We stopped it. Hyun-woo's hands clenched. Hana held Min-jae tighter, trembling. Hyun-woo stepped closer, voice low. Look at me. Hana's eyes met his. Hyun-woo didn't rage. He didn't threaten. He didn't turn the hospital into a battlefield. He did the only thing Hana needed. He grounded her. I won't let them touch you, Hyun-woo said quietly. Not with chaos, with certainty. Officer Yoon nodded. We have footage. Hyun-woo's eyes sharpened. Give it to my lawyer. Give it to prosecutors. We move legally. Hana stared at him, shocked. You're not going to... Hyun-woo shook his head once. No. Hana's voice cracked. Why? Hyun-woo looked at Min-jae's tiny face. Because if I become what you fear, I lose you again. And if I lose you, they win. Hana's eyes filled slightly, but she blinked it away. Officer Yoon spoke. Mrs. Kang, it's time to share what you know. We can't protect you without the truth. Hana's jaw tightened. She looked at Hyun-woo. Then she made the hardest choice. It was Dae-ho, Hana whispered. He was there. I saw him. He didn't touch me. But he opened the door. Hyun-woo's world went silent. Betrayal had a name now. Hyun-woo's hands trembled once, then steadied. Hana watched him carefully, afraid. Hyun-woo inhaled slowly. Then he said the words that proved he'd changed. Then we end him the right way. And that's when Phase 4 began, because now the war was official. No more rumors. No more shadows. Hyun-woo would go public, and Park would try to destroy him for it. Hyun-woo didn't send men. He sent evidence. Yoon-jin filed a protected report. Officer Yoon coordinated with financial crimes units. Min-ji delivered audit logs. Hyun-woo's legitimate company cooperated with investigators, publicly. It shocked the underworld. Hyun-woo Kang cooperating with law? That was unheard of. Dae-ho tried to run. He couldn't. His accounts froze. His travel routes closed. His safe houses were raided, lawfully. He was arrested without a bullet fired. Hyun-woo watched the news clip in silence. Hana stood beside him, holding June. Hana's voice was small. You could have done it differently. Hyun-woo looked at her. And would you still be here if I did? Hana didn't answer, because the answer was no, but Park Jae-sung wasn't finished. When Dae-ho fell, Park realized the board had shifted, so Park attacked the only thing that could still shake Hyun-woo, his reputation. Park leaked a story to the media, carefully framed. Mafia boss compromised by witness wife. Triplets used as shield. The public didn't know names yet, but they smelled scandal. Hyun-woo's partners panicked. Calls flooded in. Threats disguised as concern. Hyun-woo stood in his office, phone buzzing like a swarm, and made a decision. He called a press liaison. He called Yoon-jin. He called Officer Yoon. Then he called Hana. We go public, Hyun-woo said. Hana froze. That paints a target. Hyun-woo's voice was steady. The target already exists. Going public gives us control of the narrative. It forces legal protection. It forces visibility. Hana's breath shook. And if the public hates us? Hyun-woo's voice softened. Then we survive anyway, together. Hana stared at him. Phase 4 wasn't about access anymore. It was about commitment. Hana whispered, okay. A huge payoff, but also the most dangerous step. Because once Hyun-woo named his family publicly, there would be no hiding, and Park Jae-sung would make one last attempt to break him. Family court didn't care about mafia titles. It cared about documents, safety plans, custody schedules. Hyun-woo sat at the table in a dark suit, posture controlled. Hana sat beside him, not across from him. That alone spoke louder than words. A judge reviewed the case. Protective custody, threats, hospital tampering, insider betrayal, infants' medical needs. Hyun-woo presented a plan. Not threats, a plan. vetted childcare staff, secure residence protocol, no syndicate associates near the children, financial transparency, relocation options, therapy support for Hana, a phased custody schedule that prioritized the baby's health. The judge studied Hyun-woo. "Mr. Kang, are you willing to step back from operations that increase risk?" Hyun-woo didn't hesitate. "Yes." The courtroom murmured. His rivals would call it weakness. Hyun-woo called it fatherhood. Hana's throat moved. The judge turned to Hana. "Mrs. Kang, do you believe he will follow through?" Hana stared at Hyun-woo for a long moment. Then she said quietly, "He has shown up, even when it cost him." The judge nodded. A custody plan was approved. Supervised becomes unsupervised. Unsupervised becomes shared care. Protection becomes partnership. Outside the courtroom, reporters waited. Hyun-woo stepped into the light. Hana held Seo-yeon. Hyun-woo held Min-jae's carrier carefully. Cameras flashed. Hyun-woo spoke one sentence, calm and clear. "My family is not a bargaining chip. Anyone who tries to use them will face the law." He didn't threaten violence. He threatened consequence. And somehow, that was scarier. Because it was clean, official, unavoidable. Hana looked at him, eyes wet. Hyun-woo glanced at her and whispered, "We did it." Hana whispered back, "Not yet." Because Park Jae-sung still existed, and Park wouldn't accept losing quietly. But the final move was already in motion. Because when you fight a man like Park, you don't beat him by matching darkness. You beat him by exposing it. Park Jae-sung believed he could outsmart the system. He believed he owned people inside it. He did, until Hyun-woo cut the money lines. A week after the custody ruling, financial crimes units raided Park's businesses. Asset freezes, tax fraud warrants, bribery records, political contacts exposed. Park tried to call Hyun-woo. Hyun-woo didn't answer. Park tried to threaten through intermediaries. Hyun-woo responded with public filings. Park's empire didn't explode. It collapsed, slowly, legally, humiliatingly. And when Park was finally escorted out of a courthouse in handcuffs, cameras captured his face. Not rage, fear. Because Park had learned the truth. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one who breaks your bones. It's the one who takes away your options. Hyun-woo watched the footage at home. Hana sat beside him, feeding June. Seo-yeon slept in a swing. Min-jae's breathing was steady. Hyun-woo stared at his children and felt something heavy leave his chest. Hana spoke quietly. "It's over." Hyun-woo shook his head once. "It's quieter." Hana looked at him. "Is that enough?" Hyun-woo's voice softened. "For now." Hana's eyes searched his face. "And what about you? Your empire?" Hyun-woo stared at the living room. Baby blankets, bottles, soft light. Then he said the sentence that would have shocked old Hyun-woo. "I don't want it the same way anymore." Hana's breath caught. Hyun-woo turned toward her. "Hana," he said quietly, "I can't erase what I did. I can't erase 9 months. I can't erase the way I made you feel trapped even before you were taken." Hana's eyes glistened. Hyun-woo reached into his pocket. A small ring box. Not flashy, not a trophy. Inside, a ring with subtle design, 3 tiny stones set close together, like 3 lives linked. "I won't ask you to return to my old world," Hyun-woo said. "I'll build a new one, with boundaries, with honesty, with air." Hana's lips trembled slightly. "Hyun-woo?" Hyun-woo's voice cracked. "Will you let me love you without owning you?" Hana stared at him for a long moment. Then she whispered, "Yes." Hyun-woo slid the ring on her finger gently, not claiming, promising. In the next room, one of the triplets made a small sound, soft, newborn, alive. Hyun-woo smiled, a real one. Hana leaned her forehead against his, and for the first time, their home didn't feel like a fortress. It felt like a family, and that's the truth Hyun-woo Kang learned the hard way. Real power isn't how many people fear you. It's how many fragile lives can rest in your hands without breaking. If this story hit you, if you felt that shift from control to love, Subscribe to Aurora Love Saga for more dramatic, emotional stories like this. And comment below, do you believe Hyun-woo truly changed? Or would Hana always carry fear from the past?